Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new edition of Message of Hope. And today we have the chance to have directly from Birmingham, England, Anne-Marie Pearman, who is has a YouTube channel and is also a blogger on Medium. So welcome, Anne-Marie.
Thank you for having me, Martine.
And I will ask you the famous question, which is, how does having this understanding, how does that help you navigate events, circumstances, whatever shows up in your life?
Well, my most recent example I can give you happened yesterday. So, like you said, I do a blog, and I started doing blogs every other day and just referencing videos that I've done through YouTube. And I got somebody gave me some feedback yesterday, and the feedback wasn't bad, but she said one thing in that feedback and it sent me in a bit of a downward spiral. But I know full well, if it had been prior to the understanding, that downward spiral and that negative thought process where I did start to have those thoughts of, she thinks I'm rubbish, she thinks I'm no good at writing, she doesn't like me, she blah, 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 blah. It lasted for about half an hour. Whereas I know full well, 2017 is when I came across the understanding. Prior to then, that could have sent me into a depression and self-doubt for a week at least. I did one of my latest episodes of Remap Your Life, which is the YouTube channel I've got. I was speaking to Rob Cook, and so it was like 2 hours before speaking to Rob Cook, and I know full well it went really well, and I know full well if that had happened prior to the understanding and I was having the same sort of Zoom with Rob, it would have probably gone dreadfully, because I would have been up in my head and thinking about myself and sort of like ruminating and thinking I'm rubbish, I'm no good. And when you start thinking about that, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you almost become what you're creating, because you are too much in your head, you're not being present. I think so I'm going to change the subject slightly now, because seeing Molly here. So Molly this morning, we're hiding from a wasp at the moment because she tried to kill a wasp. And the reason it's a bit dark is my curtains are drawn because it's still daylight. It's I don't know, it's 6:20 my time in the evening. And the wasp is still there, and she nearly killed it, but I think it's a bit dopey. But I know full well, this is another example for you. So prior to the understanding, if there was a wasp in the living room where I am now, I wouldn't be here. I would have gone into the conservatory and locked all the doors because I had such a bad phobia of wasps. I'm still not 100% about them. I don't particularly want to touch them, but I'm a lot more chilled around that as well, which I know sort of, I mean, it's a phobia. So phobias are irrational anyway. I mean, you know, intellectually, I know a wasp couldn't do you much damage other than sting you. I mean, it certainly wouldn't be fatal.
Yeah, and they're jerks. Let's face it.
They're jerks. Yeah, they're just
bite just for the, not bite, but stab you
for the hell of it. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember what started my phobia. I think I was 11. I was at school on a school trip, so we were outside, and I felt this sharp pain in my arm, and I just looked down, and there was a wasp stinging me. I hadn't done anything to this wasp. I was just standing there, minding my own business, having a chat with my friends. And I think that's what started my phobia, because I can't remember being scared of them up to that point. So, but it's funny how your mind, you sort of, I don't know, you make up all these stories in your mind, don't you, that aren't true. And when I was talking to Rob yesterday, I've got another example for you, and it's fresh because I was talking about it yesterday. So I'll use this example as well. I was born in 1969, and the film Jaws came out in 1974. So I'd been 5. I've never seen the film Jaws, and I'm terrified of sharks. And logically and rationally, I know there is no reason for me to be scared of sharks, because Jaws is just a made-up film, and it was just a big plastic shark. But I don't think I'm 3P'd enough yet to want to see Jaws. I think if I still heard this I think I probably still would run out of the room, which is what I used to do when I was a child, when it used to come on the television. So Yeah, it's funny how your mind works. I mean, we're all human and we've all got our weird, strange fears and phobias, haven't we? So that's what comes to mind at the moment anyway.
But it's fine that you notice the difference it made. Like a wasp is
Yeah.
there. Yes, it's no, you still don't like the wasp, but at least you can be in the same room.
Yeah.
And same thing, somebody said something. Yes, for half an hour you went in your head, but it was half an hour and not like a week.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I notice things more as well. So like when we talk about universal mind, which is we sometimes talk about in the three principles. So I'd been unhappy at work. I won't go into detail why, but I've been unhappy at work for a few years. And I've been working the same company since 1994. So that was 25 years when it got to 2019. And they were offering, in the UK, we call it redundancy. I think you call it severance in Canada, do you?
I
Where
think
you offered, a big amount of money to leave, basically.
golden handshake.
Yeah, basically, yes. So, and as part of the deal, if you were over 45, which I was at the time, because I was 50 that year, you could start drawing a small pension when you turned 50. So that worked out really well for me. So I managed to also, because of the amount of money I got, I also managed to pay off my mortgage. So I'm actually mortgage free now, thanks to leaving my last company. So it took a lot of pressure off me because, I mean, if 10 years earlier, maybe I still would have taken redundancy, but I certainly wouldn't be in the place I am now, in as much as I still have to be thinking, well, where am I going to get a job? I mean, it's taken the pressure off in as much as I don't have to go back into the corporate world anymore. I can just do my own thing. I've got a bit more freedom. I mean, with COVID, like everybody else, I'm having to consider whether I want to take up a part-time job, maybe just to sort of top up my pension, because it is only a small pension. But I know everything will be all right in the end, and I don't catastrophize like I used to be. I don't worry like I used to. I'm just more settled that I know things will turn out all right regardless, and they always do. So
Yeah, human beings are good to catastrophize,
yeah,
like you say, the future.
yeah,
But
yeah,
99% of the time, what we think about is not happening. It's a
yes, exactly.
imagine future.
Yes, yes. And that's another thing. I used to spend, so in 2016, and this is before I came across the understanding, I came across the understanding in 2017. I was off sick with anxiety and depression for 3.5 months, and I really didn't want to go back to work. But obviously, I had a mortgage, I had a car, I had bills to pay, so I needed the money. But during that time, I started to think about how I could make a living outside of, if to enable me to leave the company, because at the time I didn't know they were going to be offering redundancy. And so I started looking, and as part of that look, the following January, I was back at work, but I went on a coaching course, and it wasn't anything to do with the three principles, but it was a free 2-day workshop in Birmingham, where I live. And on the back of that, a WhatsApp group was set up, and on the back of that, somebody in the group talked about this course through. It wasn't Groupon. I'll say Groupon. I don't think it was Groupon, but it was like a really sort of cheap course. It was reduced to about £28 or something, but for NLP. So it was NLP training, just online, £28. I thought, oh, that's quite cheap. I'll do it and see how I get on. Anyway, I started practicing on friends and colleagues, and I started to get really good results. And on the back of that, I decided to start training with the guy who the course was with. And I didn't know at the time, but he'd actually turned his back on NLP and he'd gone towards the three principles. So it was almost like I came into three principles totally by accident. It was because I was looking for something, and I thought NLP was the way, but I've ended up in three principles. And what I've found in the three principles is NLP basically just taps into what is within you naturally anyway. It's just using techniques to get to things quicker. But we all have it within ourselves. we let our minds to settle and quiet our minds down and don't dwell on the past, don't dwell on the future, try to be as present as possible, you all have our own innate mental health within us if we just can sort of quieten our minds down.
Yeah, we don't need those tricks anymore.
No, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I've known people that used to do 1 or 2 hours working on themselves using NLP just to get out of the door. And once they knew the 3 Ps, oh, I don't need to do that anymore. So it frees up time and energy.
Yeah. And talking about NLP, it took me, I mean, this is sort of promoting NLP rather than 3 principles, but it's just to give you an example how much I must have lived in my head. It took me 9 times to pass my driving test, and it was on the 9th time I thought, this is ridiculous. I'm going to go. I had a friend who was a NLP practitioner, and she worked with, I don't know if you've heard of Paul McKenna. He's quite a famous NLP practitioner over here, yeah. And she worked with him anyway, so she was, and I was an admirer of his. I'd sort of like had his videos back in those days. This is before DVDs and books and stuff. And anyway, the only way I could pass this driving test was by having NLP, and it did work. But what I know now is I did have that within myself to begin with anyway, and it's making me go cold just thinking about it. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. But I just didn't know. I just didn't know any better at the time. But now 3 principles, I know better. So
yeah, makes life easier.
It does, yes. Makes life a lot easier, yeah. And it's lots, cheaper if you know it's all within you, rather than spending money on the NLP.
Yeah, all those self-limiting beliefs just fall away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So thank you, Anne-Marie. And maybe you can plug your blog and your YouTube channel. Where can people find you?
So if you look up Remap Your Life on YouTube, just look it up. And I've got Instagram. I've managed to change that to Remap Your Life as well. So you can do at Remap Your Life. Twitter is at Remap Your Life. I've got a website called Remap My Life because I created the website. Sorry. Please stop it.
So to go back to your blog.
Sorry.
So Medium.
So I've just created, well, you can find me on Medium if you look up Anne-Marie Pearman anyway, I think it's at Anne-Marie Pearman, all one word without the hyphen. And also I've just created a publication called Remap Your Life on Medium as well. So it's all Remap Your Life. If you just remember Remap Your Life, you should find me.
How easy it is.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Anne-Marie.
Thank you. And thanks for inviting me. Thank you.